Hi guys, I'm Syama, CEO of Scaling Retail. And as you may have noticed, in 2020, everyone was hurled through this entire big digital transformation. In fact, more and more boutique owners and retail stores opened up and turned to digital as the primary way of doing business. And go figure, at the end of 2020, we saw record-breaking e-com sales. However, what does that mean on the flip side? We are now living in a digitally saturated world. And how do you compete in a digitally saturated world? So let's unpack some of the core key competencies here to be able to be digital first in your strategy, but also to be able to really get in front of that consumer. Now, what I love is when Gary Vaynerchuk talks about attention arbitrage. And when he talks about attention arbitrage, he's really meaning be where your customers are and be there before anyone else. Where are the low-hanging pieces of fruit where you can find those customers? So we're going to unpack a little bit some of the ways in which you can get in front of your customers that your competitors may not have been thinking. But first, let's shore up your brand presence in this digital-first universe that everybody is competing in. And let me start it off by saying, if you notice that last year, your cost of your advertising spend went up quite a bit with that ROAS not being as high as it used to be. The reason because that happened was all of the bigger retailers whose budgets for all of these different activations, experiential, everything got put into digital. As we look into 2021 and beyond, the main thing to keep in mind here is the digital spend will only continue. Companies now have to find ways of getting in front of that digital consumer and keeping up with that spend, as well as now going back to in real life activations and in person. So whatever those strategies were that led to a successful 2020 for your business, you're gonna have to maintain those while going back, or rather forward, with the strategies that were working in 2019. In fact, guys, when it comes to 2022, we are looking at a thirsty consumer market that is going to be ripe and ready for in-person activations and experiences. But let's shore up your digital footprint. So the first thing we really want to keep in mind here is clear and consistent copy and creative assets. Very, very important that it's consistent and clear. Your brand narrative has to be so lasered focused that when someone sees your Instagram account, they know you're not another company. So that means your native images, that means your photo shoots, that means the way that you communicate quotes, the way that you communicate collaborations. All of that becomes extremely, extremely important. If you've just been using Instagram or social media platforms just as a place to, hey, have your product there because you know you should, you have not fully exercised what those platforms can do for you as being digital billboards and primary communication channels for your particular customer base, existing and new customers. So let's make sure that your copy, your content, your communication is clear and consistent over and over and over again. First step in making sure that you are shoring up your digital footprint. Now, the second thing when it comes to being digital first is also making sure that regardless of your budget, you actually have a consistent ad spend across your channels. That means you're not turning the lights on to turn them off when it comes to Facebook. Oftentimes, younger brands will do this. They'll set aside some money to go into Facebook ads. Things start to not look so good, and instead of saying, hey, let me figure out how to optimize or make this better, they actually end up turning the lights off on Facebook, which means that all of a sudden you're not able to actually track and get the algorithm and get the information to further segment and get in front of better lookalike audiences. So to make sure you stay digitally relevant, make sure that your ad spend, whether it goes up and down the scale, is totally fine, but your ad spend continues so that your brand can continue to benefit from understanding who those audiences are. 2020 was an amazing year for collaboration, and it's probably one of my favorites for that particular reason. Last year, I found myself not only hosting panels and workshops with a variety of people that I may not have been able to, quite simply because we're all traveling all over the place. So when it came to collaborations, personally, I found 2020 to be quite exceptional. Now, chances are for your brand as well, you might have actually seen something very similar. Giveaways were very big last year. Cross collaborations and product promotions. The ways of cross-pollinating audiences, I think more so now than ever, have really been top of mind. So in a digitally saturated world, you look to say, oh, well, how can I get in front of these different audiences. How can I look to cross-pollinate? Because after all, guys, it's not about, this person's gonna follow this other account and then stop following your Instagram account. They're gonna follow both. There is no shortage of followers. There is no shortage of community. So when it comes to cross-pollination, guys, feel free to bridge and expand into other brands. Make sure that you understand the benefits of doing things like giveaways and cross-pollinate as much as possible. Again, what's the worst that can happen? All of a sudden, you might acquire some new followers, and all of a sudden, your followers might find that there are some other brands that they love. And what does that mean? That situates you very nicely in that position of saying, hey, I really truly understand my customer and the lifestyle of brands that they want to be engaging with. Look for those places that are not so traditional. And it's so funny to talk about that in terms of digital advertising because we tend to think that digital is like, the new thing. However, now digital is pretty traditional when we think about advertising on things like social media. So when you're looking to shore up your brand and finding other ways of competing in this digitally saturated world, let's open up our eyes and think about some other places by which you can get in front of your customers. Direct mail is a great option for that. Sending out postcards, making sure that you have the right lists of that kind of customer demographic. Getting in front of them is so important. I can tell you that pieces of mail that make it to my inbox, very oftentimes, if they're beautiful in nature and in copy and content, stick around for a long time, regardless if they have a bounce back code or not, meaning a coupon code or no coupon code. I'm heavily enticed by beautiful imagery. I have a feeling your customers are as well. So when you're thinking about direct mail assets, remember, it's about building that lift and building that brand awareness. Next, we want to take a look at things like podcasts, right? We want to take a look at places like Spotify. These platforms have become amazing opportunities to cross-pollinate and get in front of whole new audiences or even existing audiences from a totally different angle. I'm sure you guys all remember those 6 to 8 different touch points of marketing touch points to get people to activate and purchase with your brand is quite high. 8 touch points is a lot. It's not 8 touch points sequentially. It's 8 touch points. Like, you need to be places. So when it comes to thinking about those kinds of collaborations, take a look at Spotify advertising. Start to take a look at those podcasts. In fact, guys, you should know where your consumers are getting their information and the kind of psychographic analysis that'll tell you who their top podcasts are, right? What are the things that they're really looking at to? What is important to them? Your customers' values should not be foreign to you. You should have a very clear idea of what it is that they like to listen to. And lastly, guys, I do not want to discount the efforts of working with a great publicist. In digital native worlds, it becomes increasingly important to make sure that you have lots of different people out there espousing and highlighting your business. Now, when it comes to working with publicists and getting in front of editors or even doing the pitching yourself, when we look at these key places that signify brand recognition, getting a write-up in Vogue is certainly going to help your business than not. And so when we look at really placing the efficacy of your marketing spend or how you're looking at shoring up customer acquisition, make sure that you're looking at pitching editors and you're looking at getting your product in front of that right target publication with a relevant subject matter beyond a top 5 list of products under $50, which is great for the holiday, but is likely not something that's going to be a story that's, let's say, the most culturally relevant in the month of, let's say, I don't know, September. So think about these different mechanisms by which you can be publishing your product into different publications and working with a publicist to make sure that you're getting the right positioning and story. In these types of digitally saturated environments, being a celebrity CEO founder cannot hurt you. In fact, 60% of consumers find that having a celebrity CEO, and by that I mean a CEO and a founder who's willing to get in front of the camera and talk, right? They're not hiding behind their computer. Again, that's a personal choice. You have to be ready and want to do it. But if you do have that inclination, let me tell you that consumers are looking for that type of visibility in order to make purchasing decisions, because it tells them a little bit about the business, who you are, what your values are. So I would say consider, lastly, in this digitally saturated world, the persona and how you choose to engage as a CEO founder with your audience, with press, and with your community at large. All right, guys, that's it for me. please make sure in this next coming year you are taking real consideration of the ways in which you're diversifying your marketing strategy and espousing and amplifying your brand. If you have questions on developing those strategies, the kinds of channels you need to be on, how to communicate, where to seek and find those opportunities, our communication and marketing strategy is really an incredible service that we offer here at Scaling Retail. Send us an email at hello@scalingretail.com if you'd like to be considered as part of our next portfolio of brands that we get to work with. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye.